Hello again. This episode of my series would touch on my understanding how would the concept of reincarnation fit into the simulation theory. If the universe is a simulation and our lives are generating data, upon death, that data is archived. So the simulation ends as a thread or stream of possibility. It doesn't continue as such, but it has generated data. The data generated is based on all the decisions that we've made, all the feelings that we've had, all the emotions that we lived, all the knowledge that we acquired, all the knowledge that we shared, all the impact we made on other people who are also simulations interlinked with and merged and meshed in with our simulation in interaction between simulation threads. So just to touch on, I've heard a lot of ideas that you are the main character and everyone is an NPC, no non-player character or entity, just background. I don't subscribe to that. I don't think that's true. I think every person you meet is a simulation, a level of simulation, complex or simple. They're not non-player characters. They're players, and you're interacting with them in a interactive RPG role-playing game, if you wish, multi-user domain as a Dungeons and Dragons in an electronic form, if you will. But after your simulated thread ends, the simulation ends, you have generated data. We, in my other videos, touch on the idea that a simulation is looking for answers to questions, posing questions, generating answers, applying formulas, trying to find different combinations of simulated events to create more variations of possible answers. Now, that legacy gets stored, much like we would be generating data in our personal blogs or scientific essays, papers we publish in our university, or anything that we left on a digital forum on social media in most recent years. We would teach AI with that. We would provide it the data so it gets somewhere archived, categorized, not in particularly very much detail, granular detail, but really the gist and essence of it. Think of the summary history of a chat session. Okay, so in a multiverse server, where multiverses are different realms and different environments and different threads and different simulation spheres, each with its own physics and rules, we still have the historical perception of what has happened in the human history, and think of the evolution history of Stone Age, or then Renaissance and industrial era and information age. We've generated a lot of experiences which are stored not only in historical books but in this simulation data archive. What is reincarnation then? It is depending on the quality of data that we as united humanity have generated. It is stored based on quality, yes, based on individual contributions. You would have more or less large contributors and smaller contributors, but once the simulation ends, it's stored as point of data that is having it weighed based on the quality. So it may weigh 10 points, 100 points based on the quality generated, but it's still there. So any significant event will generate a lot of shared data. What happens when you die, when supposedly the simulation ends? You don't get reincarnated, and in your new simulation, quote unquote, life, you don't get access to your previous life. Like people would say, oh, I remember in my previous life I was a caretaker or a queen or a artist or a chauffeur. And you notice most people don't remember themselves being graveyard keeper or shopkeeper or shoe shiner or fire brigade firefighter. Most people believe they were someone important, but these are data sets to which you are given access to when you die. Alright, so what happens? The reincarnation process. Within this framework, it is a specific process of allowing access to new simulated life threads to the legacy data sets of previous data generated by similar hashtags that are needed to be connected to generate new data. So when you remember from your past life that you've met this and that person and you are soulmates and you met in another life and you died in a fire and you couldn't express your love, so now you reincarnate in these two separate beings, individuals who meet accidentally to finish up past karmic lessons, etc. I don't think it's anything like that. It's a new simulation maybe starts and you have access to various points of various other lives that generated data. You may have access to a firefighter's past life data points. You may have at the same time in parallel or in series access to a Renaissance era painter or a pharaoh or a pharaoh or a pyramid building bricklayer worker or a slave or a Siberian shaman or whatever have you. You have access to all these points, and one in their individual egoistic beliefs may think, okay, I have been this and that person in my past life. I've been a firefighter, I've been a shaman, I've been a painter, I've been a poet, I've been shoe shiner on the street. No, you haven't been anything of that. You're just another simulation thread being given access to various data points of generated data, so that when you pull in that information from that data point combined with your current data generated set and your current simulation, you have another formula created, another mix and remix of probable possibility that you can expand on. Yes, there may have been some educational material stored in the past which is incomplete, and your exact situation or your exact circumstances in the simulation allow to elaborate on a past saved archive data point and expand on it. So you are given brief, short access. You believe this is memory from past life, but it's actually you have in this stream of simulation that you have from your stream, you have access to another stream that's been archived. You pull in some information from there and you mix it with your current simulation circumstances. You think it's a past life knowledge, but it is actually a data point from some other simulation, not yours particularly. But ultimately it's yours because it is one ultimate singular entity that is hallucinating all these various simulations, playing them out as different parts to experience them as separate entities, but it's really you. So yes, in that way, but not you as the egoistic ego thinking that you've been reincarnated from this, that. You have access to points of data that has been archived, and you can use it and reuse it and build upon it. You can repeat previous mistakes, just replay the same knowledge data set in slightly different environment and confirm the result is the same, or you can actually achieve a new result based on your new circumstances and old data, and play a different scenario, different branch out, until you generate more complex variations of data and expand previous archived access data points, and allow access for future generations to do that as well. And because time is not so linear, I have a feeling that maybe some people are not remembering something that's been archived, but are generating new probable memories that will be archived in the future. So that is like fortune telling, seeing the future, etc. It's not really that, it's more of pattern recognitions. You have access to true pattern recognition of possible variations that may happen and are very probable to happen, so you are seeing them as if seen from the future. That feeling that you've probably been born 100 years too early, and you have a feeling and a sensation of what will happen in 100 years' time. You will probably live half of that century, and you will say to yourself, exactly, things are going through the pattern that I believe is something that will happen, and probably I come from the future or have access to future probabilities. That is really pattern recognition. Everything has already happened, everything has already been created, but you have access to a future archive data point that is more or less high probability for your current circumstances and combination of factors to actually deploy and play out. And this is what I meant to touch on with regards to reincarnation and maybe karmic lessons, access to karmic knowledge. And I haven't expanded it in any of my books. It's a more of theological experimentation, but let me know what you think. Maybe I'll expand on that for you in future videos. Thank you.